I'm speaking with Sarah Matthews, and we will be discussing the social and economic status of Muslims in India. So thank you for speaking to me today, and could you first just tell me a bit about yourself, how long you've been doing your line of work, and why you choose to do this work?
So, my main work, my professional work is in the education sector, but I'm known more for my activism. My family has a history of social work. Both my parents were involved in it. And so initially when I started, it was a very elitist concept of social work, sitting in AC rooms and committees and planning things. But I always felt the need to work with people at the grassroots level. So that started when we started taking up issues, whether it was heritage conservation or whether it was, in India, the official statistics say that every 15 minutes a woman is raped. We started taking up these issues. So then it was no longer social work where you're talking about livelihoods or, those kind of things. This entailed going to the police stations, dealing with the police, dealing with the law, and very often the so-called local leaders of gundas, or what you call the history sheeters of the area, who control that local territory. So then it became full-fledged activism and we started getting into cases like that. As long as it was okay, even domestic violence and dowry harassment didn't entail this kind of risky work. So that's how we started, but I didn't confine myself to just women and those issues of rape, etc. I started getting involved in other human rights issues, and as the political scenario in India started changing, I got more and more involved in the social-political activism.
Okay. So more generally about yourself, are your parents and grandparents from Hyderabad? Did your ancestors come to Hyderabad from somewhere else, and who brought them to Hyderabad?
So my parents are not from Hyderabad. My father was a corporate professional and he just happened to come here on one of his career moves. So, and my mother was a homemaker. So it's not a very old history if you look at it generations wise, but I've been here in Hyderabad all my life. I studied in Hyderabad Public School, which is one of the best schools in the in the country, and it's got a big history behind it, how it was started. We are from the first batch of girls. So for all purposes, I'm a Hyderabadi.
Okay. I want to ask you about anti-Muslim feelings in India. So during your lifetime, have you seen any changes in the way Muslims are treated? And do you think that Muslims have become more separated from Indians or from other Indians?
It's definitely there is a change from my childhood, my youth, and now. I don't think, at least we were from a very privileged background. Whenever we say that we never knew about caste or we never knew about religion, that's because we were always privileged. The people who lived, in the lower strata of society had to face these problems always. So from a very privileged point of view, yes, we didn't know any differences. We didn't even know who belonged to which community. But now people like us are aware. So that means there's been definitely a sea change. But being in the south is definitely better than in the north, because a senior activist like Shabnam Hashmi, when she came down from Delhi to talk to us about some program, she told us, you people do not even realize the scene in the north. In this room, there are Muslims, Hindus, Christians, all sitting as though this is a regular thing. In Hyderabad, all of us move around freely. We don't think about it. But she says in the north, there are so many Hindus who've never seen a Muslim because they live separately. So it's very easy to demonize the other, where it's tougher to do that in the south, especially in Hyderabad, which has always been very cosmopolitan. But yet, there has been an anti-Muslim feeling growing because of the influence of the right-wing parties. And unfortunately, they have got now a foothold over here. They managed to get into Hyderabad. They've been trying to get Telangana. They've been targeting Telangana for quite some time. So far, that's one of the reasons why I got involved in the elections this time. We're really worried about that. So, but the influence has started over here, and unfortunately there are a lot of North Indians who've come to the South because the South is more peaceful. You can work here, live in peace, but then they're also spreading, I shouldn't say all North Indians, but they're also spreading some of that, what do you say, that hatred or dislike or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And this, the social media has played a great role in this.
Okay. I have heard people say that most Indians do not have bad feelings towards Muslims, and they say only a few politicians trying to win elections say bad things about Muslims. Do you believe this is true or not really?
No, I think the North, now I'm going to talk about the whole of India. North is definitely polarized. That kind of hatred is, I think they've done a good job. In the North, they've definitely done a good job. The South is not that bad because people are more educated here. People want progress, they want development, they want peace. So it's not that bad in the South. Of course, there are some politicians who do rake it up, but all said and done, definitely they do have more of an impact now than 20 years ago.
So personally for you, have you felt any negative feelings towards Muslims, like towards you and towards your family? And as a Muslim, do you feel at home in India and in South India?
Okay, so it's reached a point where I know that, when we were younger, to dislike a community was shameful. You couldn't say that openly. But today they flaunt it. That's a part of being, that's part of the nationalism that they're talking about, to dislike minorities. So now people flaunt it. I've had, people are a little more careful with someone like me because we are outspoken and we give it, but there are a lot of people who face the brunt of it. Now my school group, we studied in a school where we never talked at that time about caste or religion. But I left the main school group because of this. Because there were some very nasty comments about Muslims and Christians and all that. So some of us have left the group for good. We don't, and this I got to know from quite a few people, from the minority communities, whether they're Muslim or Christian, that they've actually moved out of school groups or college groups because of the bashing that takes place on the WhatsApp groups. Sorry, what? I'm just going off track. Tell me, what was the thing?
Do you feel at home in India? Do you feel like you can freely?
So far,
express
yes,
yourself?
but okay. Now I'll tell you something. As a counter to this, what I do nowadays, if I know that I'm sitting with someone, this is only for you, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I know if I'm sitting with someone, especially from an upper caste Hindu community, and they're going to eat something with me, if I'm not sure, sometimes like someone came here once for some work and they got delayed. And I said, well, lunch is available here. You're welcome to have lunch with us, but do remember it's cooked, made by Muslims. Would you eat something, that's cooked by Muslims? He was, of course, very embarrassed. In the South, they still get embarrassed if you say things like this. In the North, that's the way of life. So far, yes, the South is still safe, but we are worried. Even this morning, I was very upset because I read some of the new laws that have been passed in the parliament after they suspended most of the opposition MPs, and they're really worrying laws. I was very upset in the morning. And I spoke again to someone, the past, from 2020, that's when the anti-CA protest started, they had the Citizen Amendment Act, which was again basically excluding the Muslims. I was heading the movement over here. I was a Hyderabad convener. Ever since that started, I felt this need to leave this country and go away. There are times I feel insecure, but that is also because I'm an activist. I speak out. I can't say that for everyone, but even this morning I spoke to a journalist friend of mine that what do? We have to leave. By 2024, if the same government continues, we are not safe over here. So that worry is there.
Have you feel like you've been able to freely practice your religion?
So far here in the South, there's been no major problem.
Okay.
Not in Hyderabad, Telangana.
So Urdu, as we know, is mostly a Muslim Indian language. Is Urdu starting to disappear in Hyderabad? In other words, do you believe that the dislike of Muslims in Hyderabad is causing Muslims to lose their culture?
So it's wrong to say that Urdu is actually a Muslim language. It was not a Muslim language. It has been identified with Muslims now. Yes, definitely, in the sense that, in Hyderabad earlier, they would have signboards which would have English, Urdu and Telugu. Now you find Urdu disappearing from all the signboards. You just find Telugu. It could be that the previous government did it, but now it's become a way of life and they don't do much for Urdu medium schools, etc. The issue is that, like somebody was telling me, people speak Urdu. The script is, knowing the script is going to disappear soon. People who speak good Urdu are comfortable in Roman English. So that is the issue over here. As far as the language speaking, it's the living languages. But definitely, I think it's been given a stepmotherly treatment by every government. They don't think it's. So it's something that we need to fight hard for, and to make sure that the script doesn't disappear altogether.
Okay. And do you think that Muslim culture is slowly starting to go away in India? Things like clothing, traditions, food.
Coming from here, I can't say that. Not here, not in the south, definitely. I don't think so. North also, people have been holding on to their culture, but again, they have other issues more than the culture part of it. It's a socio-economic ostracization. But you know, those people are not been part of the mainstream society over there. We don't know. Will there come a time when you have to hide what you are? That worries me. Whether that will happen. And it looks like that we're heading towards that, yeah.
Okay, so the city of Hyderabad has a long history of Muslim culture. Do you think the city has been able to protect old Muslim buildings and historical monuments?
No. Hyderabad was a very beautiful place with a lot of heritage. After the so-called police action, which was actually military invasion by the Indian Union, because there was a standstill agreement between the Nizam and the Indian Union, and that was violated. And an appeal was made at the UN. That's a big history of it. See, ever since then, first they had a civilian government over here with a totally non-local K.M. Velodi. He was, if I'm right, he's a Malayali gentleman. He was a civil servant who was put in over here as the administrator. It was like a military rule for 3 or 4 years. And then after that, whoever ruled, now Hyderabad, they chopped away the Karnataka and Maharashtra parts, and then they merged Telangana with Andhra and Rayalaseema, okay, and made it Andhra Pradesh. So most of those chief ministers were from Andhra Pradesh, specifically from Rayalaseema. And at the cost of Hyderabad's heritage, a lot of real estate development took place over here. There was, it's unspoken, it was unspoken, but they did erase a lot of the heritage of the city. And the people of Hyderabad were like a defeated race. Because, you know, I've heard stories from old timers about how educated people who were working lost their jobs. You know, and then they were reduced to penury. And these jobs were taken over by the people from the next state, Andhra. Or people who own lands. You know, they were told that, okay, so these are old lands, your rent can't be more than 500 rupees. Then urban lands. So many things happened. So they were not in a state to protect themselves or their heritage. And a lot of it has gone. And in the last government that we had, it was more like a contractor government. They were interested in pulling down old buildings to erect ugly edifices to make some money out of it. And we've had a very long, hard battle to protect Osmania General Hospital. From 2014, we've been fighting for it. And because we've been making noises, somehow, you know, every time they start something, we start screaming and yelling, a few of us. Hyderabad is not known for protests. There are just a few who make a lot of noise over here. So we managed to keep it there intact. So this government says that they will protect it. But yes, a lot of heritage has been lost. And in the north, it's even worse, because at least this we don't face here. In the north, they claim that nearly every mosque is built on a temple according to them. Even the Taj Mahal has got some other structure under it. So this is going on in the north. So definitely there is an attempt to erase the history, especially Mughal history in the north. Here it's been done in a quieter way in Hyderabad.
So there's part of Hyderabad called the Old City. Most of the people who live there are Muslim. Do you think the Old City has changed over the years, and why do you think it's changed?
So actually, Old City is the original city of Hyderabad. Even now we say Sheher. When we refer to the Old City, we still say that. Has it changed a lot? Yeah, there's been no development. It's become very ugly, squalid, dirty, filthy. And people over there now, see, I talk a lot to a lot of the common people over there. They're like just managing one day at a time. They're just caught in that kind of thing. So they're not in a position to question their elected representatives. It's what do you say, catch-22 situation for these guys over there. So nothing much has happened in the old city. In fact, it was a beautiful place once upon a time. It's all gone. It's no longer beautiful. And even the heritage, there's so much that they can do. Nearly every lane has got something, but the heritage is not preserved. If they actually take a little interest, That'll be a beautiful tourism hub, that old city area. But no government has bothered till now.
Okay. Has life changed for Muslims in Hyderabad from the time you were younger? Are Muslims holding the same jobs today as they held before?
So one thing that is there with the Muslims, they're mainly in the unorganized sector. Out of choice, because most of them run some small business. There are very few, the percentage of educated Muslims it's very small. It must be 1%, 2%. The ones who hold jobs or who are elite businessmen. That's a very small percentage. Majority of them work in the unorganized sector. That means you have a puncture shop or you're an AC mechanic. You find all these, most of them done by Muslims. And I asked them once, why do you take up this? Why don't you want to study? So something or the other comes up in the way of their studies and they feel they will not get government jobs. So then what's the point? Might as well do our own small business. So I also think this has got something to do with that so-called police action where they feel that they're not going to get a government job or whatever it is. So they're in that rut basically.
Okay, so that kind of leads to my next question. I've heard that many Muslims in India find it hard to succeed. Do you feel that many Muslims have lost opportunities just because of their religion? And if so, why do you think this happens?
No, that's true. Even the educated ones, they do face a bias. It is happening. It's not said openly, but it's a fact. You have the wrong name, you're in trouble in India.
Okay.
Some places they're blatant about it, some places they're subtle about it, that's it. But definitely does affect your prospects.
Okay. Do Muslims in India have the same education level as non-Muslims, would you say, and does that affect their economic status later on?
The education level is very low. The Sachar Committee report says that the Muslims are socio-economically lower than the Dalits. When you say Dalit, that means only the scheduled caste. Traditionally, the untouchables of India. They are ahead of Muslims in the socio-economic factors. Definitely the fact that they're not educated has played a great role in it. Because of that, they're not aware of their basic rights, their access to healthcare, and so many other things are there, and how the politicians manipulate them. So definitely the lack of education has played a major role in that. So one thing actually the Muslims have to become stronger is we have to find some way to get them educated in a manner which is not difficult for them and encourage them, motivate. Otherwise, it's just going to go on like this.
Okay. So if you could change anything in India, what would it be?
I don't know whether I should say that I would love to change the government. Because they have kept all of us stuck in this Hindu-Muslim debate. So you cannot look at anything serious. You cannot talk about development issues. You cannot talk about finance. So they've kept us involved in this. Every day there's something, even the activists get caught in this. There's a human rights issue. So they've done this kind of, so we are not moving forward, we're moving backwards. So I would definitely like to see that. Unfortunately, what I found is, though we say we're the largest democracy in terms of numbers, it's actually vote for note in most parts of India, where they give you money and you vote according to that. I feel that as a country, when we gained independence, now on hindsight, I was not born then, but I think that our people should have been educated about their rights as voters and how it affects their future. That was not done. So a lot of illiterate people were given the vote. Majority were illiterate or not educated. They were given the vote. And that continues till date, that people do not know how to use their vote properly. So one is lack of education. You do not know your rights as a citizen of an independent country. That's something I would love to do, but I don't know whether that project will be ever realized even in my lifetime. Making people aware of their rights. And I find this even among educated people who think it's a matter of pride to say that, oh no, I never voted in my life. Then why do you sit in an armchair and talk about how bad the situation in the country is? If you don't get out and vote, you can't complain. And I find a lot of educated people talking like that. So I think as far as our present scenario in the country is concerned, this is something that's really lacking. That political awareness, your rights as a citizen, people are not aware of that. And somewhere we have a colonial hangover. We think that any government servant is our master. We do not realize that they are public servants. They're meant to serve us. I've said this openly. I called out the Commissioner of Police I said he has to remember, he may be the commissioner of police, but he's a public servant. We pay taxes and he's supposed to take care of us. But that's not the way most Indians think. You see, even if I have gone to police stations to take up people's cases. And they're quite taken aback because I don't give a damn. You may be a police officer, but you're a public servant. But I've seen educated people stand like this and talk to an SI all throughout. So these are the things, if you can change these things, I'm sure there would be a big turnaround in our country's situation, all communities, minority communities, everyone.
Okay, that was my last question. Thank you.